So we're going to start with the next block of talks. I'm Catherine, I'll be moderating this for you, but I'm not the person you're here to listen to, so I'm going to move straight on to the rest. For those of you who don't know the format, we have a 12-minute talk followed by 6 minutes of questions, so we're very happy if you come closer and ask questions at that point. And I think we should just dive in and get started. On stage with me, we have Tatjana Puhan. She's the head of equity and asset allocation at Swiss Life Asset Managers. She's a PhD in finance. She lectures at the University of Mannheim, and she's going to talk to us about technical disruption and innovation management in the asset management industry. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, welcome everybody also from my side. I will talk about how actually technological disruption is changing and has already changed the ecosystem of the financial industry. And to start with, I just want to give you an example. So I don't know whether everyone can see that, but this is my credit card of Revolut. And actually on my phone, I have their app. And Revolut is one of the most successful fintechs. And why? So they're working in the space of currency transactions, wire transfers, etc. And what they've done is they've used technology to transform a service that has been sort of like a rip-off of clients and really inconvenient and not very well structured to something that is really smooth, working anywhere at any point in time, on any device, and something that is also really cost-efficient and transparent for the customer. And so basically their success proved them right, and they have grown to 40 billion in transactions within only 3 years. So I think that's quite a success story, and that shows you how much technology can disrupt actually the financial industry. And so, in what I try to tell you today, I would like to make 3 major points. So one point is about how customer preferences have changed. A second point is about what margin pressure actually does to the industry and what companies can do about that. And the third point is more like a general point that might apply also to other sectors, and that is about how you have to transform your organization in order to be able to cope with innovation and change. So when we talk about customers and how the preferences have changed, then one thing you can observe is that today customers, they really want to have access at any point in time, anywhere, on a platform, to all the information they need about their financial status. They want to execute transactions. And I'm not only talking about retail clients here, I'm also very much talking about institutional clients. On the other hand, for these providers of those services, it means that they have a very sort of direct and easy way of getting into touch with the clients and having a much broader scope also of clients than they ever used to have. Those platforms tend to, give you the impression that it's sort of personalized. And for instance, they even talk to you. So my Revolut app greets me when I arrive in Germany and tells me what is the exchange rate of euro against Swiss franc, or they welcome me back home. They tell me what I spent, and so on and so forth. These platforms even help you to make your investment decisions. So they put themselves actually in direct competition to the traditional asset management industry. And those platforms can actually also help the suppliers to identify trends in real time. So what are trends in your customer needs? What are trends actually in how they behave? You can also monitor the sales progress in real time. And you can actually aggregate all these data to come up with models that try to predict what is going to be the next best person to call, to sell a product to, etc. And these platforms, they even can start to interact with artificial intelligence with the customer. So you might talk to this chatbot thing, and it will try to solve your problem. And if it cannot solve your problem, and you still want to talk to a real person, it's not just going to be the next best guy on the phone you're going to be matched with, but there are actually intelligent algorithms behind that will, based on the tone of your voice, your sex, or other characteristics, will match you with the person that will have the most likely, most smooth customer experience for you. So when I look at the transformation of our industry, what I can also really see is that due to digital progress, but also due to global competition, and obviously also due to our low return environment, margin pressure is quite a big issue in the financial industry. And so there are a couple of things that companies can do or have already started doing to sort of cope with that. So one important point is that these platforms are a very efficient way of cutting out expensive distribution. because you save quite a lot of money, you know, if there's not the sales guy who wants also a big part of the share because he sort of spoke to that guy and so on and so forth. So you just need a platform that helps you to do that. Another thing is that you try to automatize as much as possible all processes. So when it comes to trading processes, when it comes to all administrative processes, there are systems in place today that help you to really make everything very efficient, to cut out a lot of manual work, and that actually helps you to make things much cheaper. We see a third thing coming up that is actually, there's sort of like a new, if you want, steady-state equilibrium in the industry. So either you got to be really big, so like BlackRock or Amundi, or you got to have a really, let's say, differentiating edge that is sort of very difficult to copy for the big ones, so that you can survive in that market without having to use huge economies of scale, and you can still sort of charge a little bit of higher fees. But even when you're very big, you cannot be sure that you will survive, because we've seen, you know, these WeChats, Alibabas, Amazons entering the market who have never been before in that industry, but they have a huge client base, and all of a sudden they make a huge competition to the BlackRocks and all the big players in the market. And so from my point of view, what remains is actually that you need to be the one who is able to generate smart ideas, who's able to really be fast in innovation, who's really agile to respond to new trends in the market. And to do that, you might have to transform actually quite a lot in your organization. Or this is at least what I would think of most of, you know, the companies that I see currently in the asset management and financial industry. And so how can you do that? Well, I mean, this topic by itself could be like a 1-hour speech very easily. But I, you know, just want to give you like very few ideas that, you know, you could potentially apply, or, you know, you could go and read, or we can discuss them later. So one thing that is clear is that you need to transform the organization to something that is actually very open for innovation, that you create a culture of trust, and a culture where basically employees are empowered and feel like they can take risks, they can take decisions, and they very well know about the vision of the company. And how do you achieve this? Well, if you want to change, for instance, yourself, then you first need to understand that you need to change. So it starts in your head, so it starts with the brain. So for an organization, that means it starts with leadership. So leadership and transformational leadership is a very important point here. So if the leaders don't understand that, then you're not going to be able to retain talents, you're not going to be able to transform your organization. A second important point is that we see that the organization, or the way how work is organized, is really starting to change. So before we had silos, and now we move to something which is sort of like a network. So you organize your company around client needs, around lines of business, and you don't have these traditional silo structures anymore. So you have cross-functional, cross-department, even cross-generational teams that help you to be as close as possible to the client. Then we see another thing that is entrepreneurship. So today, in particular in innovation work, you try to make your employee an entrepreneur. So you're not going to give like individual KPIs that are breaking down, you know, the tasks into every single little thing the guy has to do. You give him the picture and you let him run, and he can decide on the way. And so that's, you know, the freedom you need to give them if you want to have a fast innovation going on. Another thing is agile learning methods. So agile learning, lean startup, design thinking, these are all words, and behind those things they're actually quite big concepts. I cannot really talk about all of this now, but just think about the way how your organization learns, how you come up with new ideas, and you probably have to rethink this as well. So maybe to conclude, I think it's very easy to say something has to change, but it's tremendously harder to actually really make things change in your company. And I cannot predict the future, but I know that for those guys who are today in the asset management industry, if they're not kind of finding answers to those points that I try to address, then they are not going to be there anymore in 5 to 10 years going forward. And if you ask me about who are going to be the stars of tomorrow, I don't know, and partly I don't know because I'm not even sure that they are born today.
Thank you, Tatjana. I didn't even have to ring the bell. Very on time. Amazing. This would actually be the point where we open up for some questions. So I would walk down and hand over the mic to whoever would have a question for Tatjana at this point. Yes. Please come forward. Yes, awesome.
I have two questions, if I may. The first one is, you mentioned that one of the main factors where companies like yours have to change has to do with cost and margins. Shouldn't it be that if I want to invest, it's more like you recommend me a product that is interesting for me according to the risk that I want to take, related to gold, ETFs, I don't know, stocks that are more or less risky or less risky according to my profile, rather than taking care of that you and we have as less cost as possible, more like something that is more tailor-made to my risk. Besides cost, of course, cost is important for me and for you, but I also want to know, because I only have 1 or 2 hours per day to read about investment. If I don't have more time, you are the expert, you should get to know more me, and I think that's where the technology should be. Not so much the robo-advisor part. I'm not very happy with the robo-advisor technology, but more like you as an investment company come to tell me, look, these are the investment types that are okay for you, let's talk about it.
Yes, obviously, I mean, that's all about, giving you the right advice, but this has a cost. Okay, so for instance, if you're like a retail client and you would invest, let's say, in a mutual fund, or, I mean, there are these managed accounts where you have sort of like a pseudo wealth management portfolio where I can reallocate for you a portfolio of funds. But now, what should I charge you for this? And so today, if you look at the industry, I mean, what they've been charging in the past for these services has been way too high for what you could charge today. And why? Because first of all, there's all this competition coming from robo-advisors and even like international companies entering the market that haven't been there before, that offer their services for a lower price. And so you might say, well, you recommend me this equity fund that costs me 1.5%, but the other guy, he would give me the same thing for like 50 basis points, so 0.5%. So who are you going to choose, right? And the next thing is, this question has become even more relevant because the expected returns that we have today, or that we expect for the future in all asset classes, are much lower. So since interest rates are so low, on all asset classes, we actually have much lower expected returns. So if you know that with your portfolio you're going to make on average 3% over the next 5 years, then you will not be willing to pay 3% of fees. But that might have been actually the fees that you were charged beforehand. And so it means that asset managers really get under pressure to reduce costs for all these different reasons. And those who are not able to do that, and this is actually a painful process that has to take place, but those who are not able to do that, they will just be blown out of the market.
And then, sorry, my second question is, you were saying that companies need to change. There is a company here in Hamburg, it's maybe a competitor of yours, one of the biggest private investment banks. I registered in their Facebook page that I want to get more information from them 3 months ago. After 1 month, I got a newsletter saying, you are almost there, please register, so I will send you more information. I did, like 10 minutes. That was 2 months ago. Just yesterday, I got another email saying, you are almost there, please register if you want to receive your newsletter. I registered again, and it's still time. I haven't gotten any information from them. What's going on? How much are people paying for each lead of this? I'm sure that at least they have to pay 10 euro for each lead to Facebook to get my information. And I'm interested. I have money to invest, and they're still not contacting me. It's 4 months.
Yeah, so if you want, we can talk about this later. So I'm sure we are going to be more responsive now. I'm just joking. Yeah, I mean, but it just shows that how little ready actually a lot of people are in that industry. So that's why I think there's a lot of room still to grab, to make a step forward actually. And I think there are a lot of challenges for many companies. And so I can just say, I don't know who you mean, and I don't want to bash your competitors, but I think that's very poor actually. And that's why you would go maybe to an online whatever brokerage, right, or to a robo-advisor where you get instantaneously in 2 or 3 minutes an answer, and that's how you lose clients. And that's why I'm also trying, that's what I try to say to all, the peers and even within our own company, that this is what they face and how fast they will lose customers. And maybe today we still have a huge chunk of clients which are the old ones who are not necessarily so, you know, kind of well, I mean, they are not really doing well with the internet and so on. But you know, our generation, I mean, I see it what I'm doing, right? I go into the internet, I look it up, I kind of inform myself, and I want to have everything done whenever I want, wherever I want, and quickly. So that's about it, yeah.
Thank you. We have time for one short mic feedback or other question, if there are any. Yes? No. All right. Great. Thank you so much, Tatjana.
Thank you.
Looking forward to the developments in the industry.